Thanks a lot for this very nice introduction. Vice President Davis, dear ladies and gentlemen, excellencies and friends, I'm delighted to speak to all of you in Israel. Israel is a country where you can get the right inspiration when fighting terrorism. And I hope I will be able to share with you some thoughts, some food for thoughts on how we in Europe try to fight terrorism on a daily basis. I'm the head of Eurojust. It's a group of around 350 persons, mainly prosecutors from the 28 EU countries. 28 countries means 30 different legal systems, 24 different languages, 500 million citizens, and as we all know, and more, characterized by a lot of criminal challenges. Since the beginning of this year, the European Union has decided to focus from now onwards for the next 5 years on mainly 3 crime priority areas. And those are definitely terrorism, foreign terrorist fighters, illegal immigration, people smuggling, and finally cybercrime. And if we have been listening very thoroughly to the previous speakers, there is a problem, not only in the EU, but globally in relation to cybercrime. There is a problem related to terrorism, especially on foreign terrorist fighters, and not only in the European Union, but globally. And there is a problem related to climate change, to financial crisis, making people to move from one region to the other. European Union is now especially confronted with this last problem, illegal immigration. From our experience onwards, I can say to you that these 3 crime phenomena are interlinked, intertwined. The number of cases where we saw that cyber has been used to illegally trafficking or smuggling people, and that the money of that illegal smuggling is used to sponsor, finance terrorism activity, or not isolated examples. So we see more and more that thinking in silos, thinking in fields of expertise does not give us the right approach. And I can't agree more with what Judge Bardo just said. We need to keep pace. We need to be stepping up the pace in fighting terrorism, organized crime in generally spoken. And that means that we have to simplify, that we have to be creative, that we have to start thinking out of the box. And together with Judge Bardo, I'm also a magistrate. I'm also a prosecutor, known as very old-fashioned very often, but we don't have time to be old-fashioned. We have, together with other partners, to start thinking out of the box creatively. And I can't agree more with Professor Ganor than with what he said yesterday. It is about the military doing its best. It's about the civil society, NGOs, academics, research centers, and it's about the legal community, judicial law enforcement community, not working in silos, but as we just heard in the previous speech, working in total partnerships, not only talking about partnerships, but joining the forces and being complementary to what the other is doing and offering. That will be, in fact, in a nutshell, my speech, based on experience, because what we do at Eurojust is based on operational expertise. We were involved in a lot of recent terrorism-related cases. 24th of May, the attack last year against the Jewish Museum in Brussels, killing 4 innocent persons, was part of our daily business afterwards. And it was followed up by the January Charlie Hebdo events, followed up by the failed attack in Verviers, Belgium, followed by the Danish attacks mid-February. It didn't stop since then. We tend to forget the March Bardo Museum attack, the 18th of March. More than 20 persons, including a lot of EU citizens, were killed in Tunis. Followed up in June by an attack in Sousse, where people were, in fact, enjoying their well-deserved holidays and were brutally attacked by terrorists. More than 30 people were killed in Tunisia. A lot of them were EU citizens. And not so long ago, when people were taking the train, the high-speed train, the TGV, très grande vitesse, from Amsterdam via Brussels to Paris, they were attacked by a person, an isolated person. We are still digging into that criminal investigation. All this is part of our daily lives at Eurojust. We're dealing with those cases operationally. We join all the forces, so we join the forces of the investigators, policemen, prosecutors, instructing judges, intelligence services, which are dealing with those cases. And we do this through two main operations: judicial coordination and judicial cooperation. We speed up the mutual legal assistance. And we have, so to say, good tools at Eurojust and at EU level since a few time. We do not have to go via the extradition, lengthy procedures. We have the European arrest warrant in the European Union. We don't have to go bilaterally or to lose time by extensive mutual legal assistance processes. We have the possibility to establish joint investigation teams. And such a team, for instance, was being used in the not so far ago MH17 attack in July 2014, again coordinated by Eurojust. So we have unique possibilities, coordination meetings, coordination centers, making use of simplified tools just as European arrest warrants and joint investigation teams. But we were hit by the terrorists, foreign fighters, since 2012. It was not a new phenomenon. Since 2005, 2007, we were already confronted at Eurojust with people going back and forth to Iraq and coming back with terrorist intentions. But in 2012, we reunited, and we do this every single year, all the counter-terrorism prosecutors of the European Union. Since 2005, we have established a network of specialized counter-terrorism prosecutors, and they have, since 2005, to inform, obligatory to inform Eurojust on every single criminal investigation prosecution taking place in their respective member states. That wealth of information is being analyzed at Eurojust on a daily basis. We have at our disposal judicial legal analysts, and they are analyzing all this information given to Eurojust, related to criminal investigation, real, live, ongoing criminal investigations and criminal prosecutions. And that constitutes a goldmine of information. We share this information, analyzed, with the group, the networking group of counterterrorism prosecutors, which at least once a year are visiting and meeting and talking and exchanging information at Eurojust in the mid of every single year. 2012, during the last, what we call strategic meeting at Eurojust, one of the counterterrorism prosecutors told Eurojust, well, we have problems with people going back and forth to Syria and coming back with terrorist intentions. Are other countries investigating those people going back and forth? Are they also confronted with their terrorist intentions? And do you have problems in relating and liaising with non-EU countries? How do you deal with that problem? Or we're the only country facing that problem? We were June 2012. And we did do what we normally do at Eurojust. So we launched a questionnaire among all the counterterrorism prosecutors and asked very specific questions. Do you have the same phenomenon on your territory? Are you having criminal investigations, criminal prosecutions? And what are the problems encountered, legal, practically, judicially? And gradually we realized in October, November, that not only that one requesting country was confronted with foreign terrorist fighters, but alongside with that country, at least 6 other countries. 2013, we were the first in Europe to alarm all the rest of Europe and the rest of the world. This is an oil stain. Foreign terrorist fighters are increasing. The number of people going back and forth to Syria are increasing, and a lot of them come back with terrorist intentions. And since 2013, each time in June 2013, 2014, and this year in 2015, we concentrated the meeting on foreign terrorist fighters, trying to have a hold on the modus operandi, the trends, the obstacles, the good practices, the best practices, the know-how being experienced at different national member states levels, but also among the different players, different counter-terrorism prosecutors. And in fact, that is what we call the tactical meeting. So 2013, 14 and 15, we concentrated on the foreign terrorist fighters, and the reports derived from those discussions were being delivered to the Ministers of Justice and Interior at 3 occasions, 2013, 14 and 15. And that means that via the work on the spot in the different member states, we try to inspire the decision makers, the Ministers of Interior and the Ministers of Justice. So bottom up, we try to influence and impact the decision makers, from the purely operational work to the tactical work to the more strategic policy work. And what we have seen is that indeed, from 7 countries in 2012, 2013, the oil stain became bigger, 15 countries, 20 countries. It was not only in the European Union widespread problem, it became a problem in all the regions surrounding the European Union. It became a global problem. And we saw that, and that was the most serious part of it, that those returning back to the regions had more and more terrorist intentions. And we also saw that gradually in all the member states of the European Union, we started to have a certain policy and more striving for prosecutions and convictions. However, we only see recently that the number of criminal investigations and prosecutions are becoming larger and larger. And one of those recent convictions is the one that took place in Antwerp earlier this year in spring against Sharia for Belgium, a recruitment network. We're not talking about isolated recruiters. We're talking about a group of at least 30 persons who, with knowledge and intention, recruited people to go back and forth to Syria. This is a gold mine of information. These kind of convictions are systematically being analyzed by Eurojust to add extra layer of information to the work of the counterterrorism prosecutors and investigators. We call this compilation of analyzed convictions TCM, Terrorist Convictions Monitor. And gradually, since 2012, 13, 14, 15, we are compiling case law and experiences, know-how to be shared with counterterrorism prosecutors, a network of counterterrorism prosecutors within the EU and outside. Because since 2014, we do not stick and concentrate only on the European Union counterterrorism fighters. We also have on board of our meetings colleagues from the Western Balkans, Turkey, and more from other countries from Northern Africa, for instance. This is what we see as part of the criminal policy towards foreign terrorist fighters, making list of challenges. We definitely need for a common problem, a common, comprehensive and cooperative approach. We need, and Jean-Paul Laborde has already referred to it, a solid legal framework which is simplifying our lives, not making it more complicated because of the diversification of legal definitions. We need, in fact, one common ground, one common denominator to be easily in touch with each other in order to exchange easily information and translate it in the same foreseeable way. We need one criminal justice response and approach. We need also to take care of the new reality, admissibility of evidence. Evidence being retrieved from abroad, from the zones of conflict, is not easy to get. How do we get that evidence? Evidence gathered from the internet, from the clouds and the darknets, how to get it in a rapid way, in an admissible way, in an understandable way, in an acceptable way, according to the rule of law. We need to do this together with different disciplines from the private and the public sector. And finally, international judicial cooperation is critical. If it's not done in a rapid way, in a creative way, we are definitely lost. I will go through this list in a very fast way. We have, since last year, September 2014, at least one legal definition of what is a foreign terrorist fighter. It's thanks to the solid work of the United Nations. We have one easy, understandable definition of what is a foreign terrorist fighter, thanks to the UN Resolution 2178, which is already been translated into the additional protocol to the Council of Europe's Convention on Prevention of Terrorism, and which is now gradually also in all the member states being introduced in the respective national legal frameworks. There are still loopholes in the system. Since 2002, we started to have common denominators and definitions on terrorist legal criminal offences. Since 2008, the list had been enlarged with what is recruitment, what is public provocation, what is incitement, glorification to terrorism, what is training of terrorism, but we still have some gaps, prosecution gaps, and that is what we gradually, through case law, try to fill and try to solve on the spot. Information exchange, it has been underlined in the previous speech. It is obviously key and it's critical. If you do not exchange in real time information related to criminal investigations and prosecutions, you are lost. Thanks to the network of counter-terrorism prosecutors, we have a network and we are connected in real time to the counter-terrorism prosecutors in all the member states through what we call Eurojust, the Eurojust national coordination systems. So we have specialized prosecutors in every single member state, and the 28 specialized, be it in illegal smuggling of human beings, be it in cybercrime, in financial crime, in drug trafficking, and also, of course, in terrorism. And we connect the dots between the different member states, judicial authorities in the different member states. This is really key, this is really crucial. What we have been defining in relation to foreign terrorist fighters is that we cannot have a prosecution investigation of all the returnees. So we had to make classification. We needed a criminal policy. And we have 3 levels of returnees: the highest level of risk, medium level, and low level. And we have to concentrate on the highest level of risk, the highest level of seriousness of alleged conduct. We need, in that perspective, to gather enough evidence, and we really need to take care of those levels of high risk. In order to not get lost in other priorities, we should prioritize that kind of level, and that's exactly what Europe is now currently doing. As I just said, even evidence is hard to get, and we need to be rapid in getting it. And what we see is that liaising with the zones of conflict, liaising with the MENA countries is top priority. Now, later than this year, at the end of this year, we will have a meeting, a discussion on practicalities, a pragmatic approach on terrorism with the EU counter-terrorism prosecutors, including to that exercise representatives, high-level representatives, practitioners from the 18 MENA countries, in order not to talk about the rule of law in theory, but this is the problem. How are we going to solve it? How are we going to solve extradition? How are we going to solve in real time the exchange of information? How are we going to gather evidence in a tangible way? And getting electronic evidence, having it gathered in a minimum of time, solid evidence, is the hardest thing to get. Especially in the European Union, we are facing different data retention rules across the ocean. Cooperating with the United States is not always easy, not always simple, and not always rapid, because cross-border data access is hard to get, because getting the evidence from the clouds and the darknet is not so easy in practice. We have also a need for a criminal policy. Prosecution is not per se the answer. It might be that there are other ways forward. It might be that instead of prosecution, disengagement, rehabilitation, de-radicalization is better than anything else. Following youth law approaches, having a special focus on youngsters, going back and forth and coming back, not always with terrorist intentions, but taking care of those might be better than putting them in jail. Not per se striving for short sentences, but for other regimes is maybe better. So we are at this right moment in the process of having a thorough reflection. The 19th of October, the Ministers of Justice and Interior and all the practitioners will gather on what is the best way forward. And there are lots of things to be considered. What is the highest risk of a foreign terrorist fighter? What is a one we have to take care for by prosecution? And then one of the final points is the multidisciplinary approach. The interagency cooperation is the last point, is where the police, intelligence, be it military, civil intelligence, and the judiciary have to work together. But before that, there might be other ways forward. And we have to grab every single possibility, from the preventive side to the administrative side, and not neglecting one or another possibilities. If we strive for prosecution, we have to go for targeted prosecutions. Only the highest level of risk should be prosecuted. And finally, it's important to underline judicial cooperation within the EU, which is getting more and more easy, but also between the EU and other regions. Hence, we are very proud to host at Eurojust a US liaison prosecutor, a Norwegian and a Swiss prosecutor, and we are now even nearly every day ensuring that the network of contact points is getting increased every day. This is my final word. It is about alliances of the alliances. It's about partnership. It's about building bridges. And I want to end where also Professor Ganor ended yesterday. The only way forward is to be positive. Being negative in any way is not a way forward. It is not an option. And for us, the glass should definitely be half full. There are lots of challenges, but a lot has been done. And if we are doing this, it must be because of the victims of the past and the victims of the future. Not in silos, but all together, hand in hand. I trust that you will do so, and you can trust that Eurojust will continue to do so. Thanks a lot. Toda.